So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm training, the specifics for cyclocross this year. And there is a catch at the end because this may not work, but this is based upon years of doing cyclocross and actually doing poorly at cyclocross, and then 2 years ago finally having kind of a breakthrough and actually doing quite well, I thought, at cyclocross. So I'm going to tell you exactly how I trained for it, and even to the reps, and let me know if you are experienced in training for cyclocross, if you would do it any other way, so let me know. So here we go. Starting May, I started training for cyclocross. Now, because of the disease that shall not be named, there was no cyclocross for the last year and a half, so I just didn't train for it. I just rode my bike and just had a good time. I rode with friends, we did different challenges and stuff, but I wasn't doing any specific cyclocross training. Now, cyclocross, because it is only a very short bike race and very quick and aggressive, I started training again in May. And what I did was I started doing calisthenics, just simple jumping jacks, squats, some weightlifting, leg extensions, leg curls, calf raises, some core exercises, lunges, things like that. Very, very simple with body weight. But I didn't really change anything with the cycling. So I did that in May just to get my body's tendons used to doing that. Occasionally when I go out for a walk, I'd go for a tiny little run, that type of thing. Then in June, I started getting more serious with the calisthenics. So my basic routine is this. I would start out with a joint warm-ups, warming up all my joints, going through range of motion until I'm sweaty, and then doing squats. And what I would do with squats, at least for June, I would continue to do body weights. I would do somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 repetitions, 2 sets of those, just with my body weight. And then I would do something that I found really, really helpful, which is used in the world of powerlifting to activate your hamstrings and your glutes by using a band that goes around your waist, and you tie it to something heavy like my weight bench. And then I would essentially do a mimicking deadlift type of motion. And what it does is it actually helps work your glutes and your hamstrings for hip extension. And I find that it's actually a very good exercise. Years past, I had a high hamstring tendinopathy, so if you ever have that, this is the exercise that cured me. So I would do that. I would do leg curls, leg extensions. I would do some hip exercises for the side of my hips. And then I would do something that essentially is, you can call it a bowler squat or a one-legged squat, by doing basically a lunge but with your back leg suspended backwards. And the idea behind it is it's not as much as of a leg exercise as a total body core exercise, because you're using your hip extension muscles, your glutes and your hamstrings, your quads, you're using your glutes, but most importantly, you're using your spinal extension or extensor muscles to maintain good spinal extension for your back. And it's a really good exercise. And I did that for about a month. And then in July and August, I started getting serious about the cyclocross training, and I started trying to use that power that I've been developing through the calisthenics onto the bike. So I started with the weight training. I did the same routine, but I started adding much heavier weights. So instead of just doing body weight squats, I held a 50-pound dumbbell and I put it in front of me and I did goblet squats. I would do more and more deeper type of the skater squats. I would do more repetitions with heavier weights of the leg curls, longer, heavier bands for the hip extension, the deadlift type of motion. Sometimes I do deadlifts with just the 50-pound dumbbell. So I started doing that, but the most important thing was I started doing it on the bicycle. So I started taking that power and doing it on the bike. So if I rode my bike on Saturday and Sunday, sometimes I would take Monday off, and then I would weight lift on Tuesday morning, for example. And then I would go to work, and then later in the day, I would go out at nighttime and I would do sprints up this hill about 6 or 7 miles from my house, which was perfect because it's a 6 or 7 mile bike ride, which is a warm-up, and then it was a 2-minute hill. And the hill is, it starts out at about kind of 5-6%, and then it levels off to about 3-4, and then it kicks up again to 6-7, and there's a peak at like 8% before you get to the top. And man, my heart rate would just be going crazy by the time you get to the top. And so I started doing about 4 intervals of that, so a total of 8-minute intervals. And so the goal was I would take the weightlifting, the power that I would develop in the weightlifting, and I would translate it to how to get power on the bike through intervals. Now the game plan was that starting in September, I would start to transition out of weightlifting and do more and more power intervals like that. So I would do 2-minute intervals, and I found that was the sweet spot for the intervals for the bike. And then what I would do is, as September, October, and November came around, I would start transitioning from just 2-minute intervals, and I would build up over time to maybe 6 or 7 intervals. I would start doing, what are they called? I did them a lot and they were useful, where you go 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, and it's only 4 minutes of an interval. Oh man, they would kill you. But I would do 2 of those, and I would do them on grass. And I would start mimicking the cyclocross style of racing. And so by the time the October and November came around, I was doing 20-minute practice sessions at a local park where I would be going around trees, practicing my cornering, practicing my sprints, practicing dismounting and running with the bicycle. There's a section at this park where it's got an uphill section where you have to dismount, put the bike on, and carry. And so my training essentially from May to November went from very non-specific to very specific cyclocross, to the point where some days I would go out and do practice sessions. Well, unfortunately, some things happened that didn't work out as planned. The first is I did not catch the virus that shall not be named, but holy cow, did I catch a virus. I caught some stomach bug, and it's kind of funny during this time in healthcare when you have something other than the disease that shall not be named, because the moment you go into the doctor, if you even have a sniffle, they want to test you for that disease. And I actually asked, well, can you test for something else? And they actually, I thought this was weird, but they kind of said, we don't test for that anymore because it's always going to be this. And I thought, well, that's kind of peculiar. But it turned out I kept testing negative for the disease that shall not be named. And it was just kind of like, well, you're sick, bye. We don't know what's wrong with you, but we know it isn't that, but come back in a couple days and we'll test again because we're looking for that. And I was laid up for like a week and a half. I was just in misery. I actually ended up losing 6 pounds in 10 days, if you can believe that. And so I feel like I lost all my strength, I lost all my training, and then next week I have a dermatology appointment, and of course there's something that's been found on my back. I'm hoping it's not one of the 3 cancers, but you know, we'll see what happens. So I'm sure they're gonna cut me open there. And then the following week after that, I've been suffering for about a year from a condition called a Morton's neuroma. I'm gonna have a procedure done, and I thought it was an outpatient procedure, that it's no big deal, that you go home, rest for a couple days, and go about your life. and that is what they have been advertising with this procedure, and it's called a radio frequency ablation. They do it in the heart actually, and they do it in the spine to burn nerves so that you don't have as much pain in those nerves. Well, it turns out that I got the pre-op stuff, and they don't want you being physically active for about a month afterwards. And I thought, well, what the hell, man, you know? So I'm not going to be able to ride my bike for 4 weeks. I assume that's what they mean by a month, maybe 3 weeks. We'll see. You know how people think. And so I feel, man, like I'm losing all my fitness. And I was actually, prior to this stomach bug, I felt like I was really getting strong. I felt like I was getting fast. I felt like, man, I could do 70 miles hard, no problem, uphill, you know? And so on top of this, there may be a silver lining in this. Currently, because I do live in California, hence the name of the channel, Cycling in Southern California, what's happening right now is they're really starting to get aggressive with the stuff, and I don't understand the closure of businesses and how they're trying to control businesses, because I'm not sure if cyclocross is going to even exist. For a while in the beginning of summer, there were a lot of gravel events, and it looks like everybody gets to go to Dodger Stadium, and they're having all these big events, and it doesn't seem to be any restrictions. But if you come into my place of business, suddenly we're restricted, and they're threatening that they're going to close businesses down again, and that, you know, yada yada yada, we have to close everybody down. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with cyclocross. I think my attitude right now is my fitness is going to be shit. I'm not going to be in the best fitness that I can be. There's nothing I could do about that because of the procedures and the illnesses that I've had. And I think if cyclocross does exist, I think I'm still going to participate, and I'm just going to do the best I can and not worry about it and not have the attitude of I'm here to win. But I really started off this year with the attitude that I'm not there to play. I'm there to win, and that's how I did it last year. I'm sorry, not last year. 2 years ago, when I had this training plan that I explained right now that I'm following. I started following again. It really worked out well for me. This transition from calisthenics to weightlifting, to getting that power on the bike, to transitioning it into a very specific cyclocross style of training. I just did fantastic. Rather than considering it a hobby and just a little fun thing to do on the weekend, I took it seriously, and it really paid off with 2 wins that year. So let me know in the comments section what you think I should do. If you see any other techniques or ways to train for cyclocross, let me know in the comments section down below. I'd appreciate it.